Hey there friends, it's Laurie. Today I'm making farmhouse cottage decor along with a cute little dog in a bathtub that I made for my bath. I use Dollar Tree supplies. It sometimes helps to keep the cost down, and I always end up using some things that I had on hand. As always, I hope you have fun crafting with me, so let's get busy. Getting started, I'm using a 12-inch round by 2-inch metal pan. It's definitely seen a lot of action and it's pretty worn, but that's exactly what you want to use. I picked mine up at Savers. I got the senior discount, so it ended up costing me $2.80. I did my best and removed the price tag from the back, and to be sure there isn't any grease or dirt, I washed it with my Dawn dish soap. To make the shelf in the center, I'm starting with an 18 by 2-inch piece of wood from the Dollar Tree. I placed the wood against the pan to get my measurements and marked it with a pencil. It measured about 11.5 inches. I cut the wood to fit and slightly angled the two ends to accommodate the rounded edges. Now that I know it fits, I'm going to give mine a coat of golden brown acrylic paint. Now that the paint is dry, I'm just stressing it with a piece of sandpaper. I decided to paint my shelf, but you can always leave it natural or stain it, and I think that would look great too. If you're using a newer pan, I would suggest using some sandpaper and sanding the area where you're attaching the shelf and the hanger. I'm using some painter's tape, and this is completely optional, along with E6000 to attach the shelf into my pan. I added some to the two sides and the back. I think the scratches in the pan help the E6000 adhere to it, and that's why if you're using a new pan, I'd scratch up the area for the shelf and the hanger to help the glue adhere easier. I found the shelf's placement. I pressed it down so it was tightly in place, and then I used some painter's tape to help hold it while it was setting up. The glue's now completely dry, so I'm removing the tape and checking out the shelf. You can make these type of shelves in different sizes and shapes, and I think this is a great way to repurpose an old pan. For the shelf's hanger, I'm using 24 inches of the Dollar Tree nautical rope. In addition to the rope, to help hold it in place, I'm using 2 pieces of the Dollar Tree burlap ribbon. I'm first turning the pan over, and I'm making sure using my fingers that I know where the two sides of the shelf are. Before I permanently attach the hanger, I like to find its placement. I'll be using some painter's tape to hold it along with the burlap strips. I added a generous amount of E6000 and placed down both hangers. And now to give my hangers just a bit more strength, I'm adding down some E6000 on the rope in both sides and placing down the burlap strips. To help hold it all together while the glue sets up, I'm adding on some painter's tape. When I was done, I set it aside and let it set up overnight. All that was left to do was remove the tape, and my repurposed farmhouse shelf is ready to hang. Today, I'm participating in my monthly friend group collab, and it's being hosted by my sweet friend Liana from Liana DIY. We have 2 guest channels joining us this month, CJ DIY and Mama Can Make It. All 3 have amazing channels, and you can check them out along with my other crafty friends by clicking on the playlist. I'll have that linked below in my description. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. And to all my returning friends, I'm always so happy to see you. To start my cottage tray, I'm using one of the oval-shaped metal planters with the flowers and gardens on both sides. It's from the Dollar Tree and it measures 10.5 inches in length. I'm using a piece of sandpaper, and on both sides I'm sanding off the black paint from the raised lettering. I'll be painting it white, and this just helps out the spray paint. I'm adding some rope accents onto my cottage tray, and I'm using some of the white, thick nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I'm using some E6000, and I'm adding a heavy bead around the bottom of the planter. I then placed down one end of the rope and pressed it into the E6000 as I worked my way around. When I came to the end, I trimmed off the extra rope and attached it. I'm now turning my planter over and following the exact same instructions for the bottom. I made sure as I was attaching the rope, I pushed it into the E6000. For the top of my cottage tray, I'm using a rectangle plastic charger from the Dollar Tree, and it measures 14 inches by 6.5. And one thing that I noticed on the bottom, it does state that you cannot use it for food. I'm attaching it onto the base using my E6000. I added it on the metal edge as well as the rope, and then centered the tray on the top. After letting it set up for a couple of hours, I'm using my white spray paint, and I ended up giving it 3 coats. To hide the raised lettering, I'm using some of the Dollar Tree burlap ribbon. I wrapped it around the base and then cut it to size. I wrapped the ribbon around the front, hot glued one side on the back and then the other. I'm using a piece of sandpaper to distress the edges of the tray. It's a subtle effect that leaves a small dark edge that defines the tray. I want to hide where I attach the 2 ribbon ends together, and I'm using about a 10-inch piece of the same burlap ribbon. I folded it in half and made a knot in the middle. I then used my glue gun to attach it. To decorate the front of my cottage tray, I'm using 3 wooden knobs. I found these in a bag of assorted wooden pieces, and you can pretty much use anything to decorate the front. I'm painting the 2 that are the same with my black acrylic paint and the blue one with the white. Now that they're dry, I'm using a piece of sandpaper to distress them. Now that I have all 3 distressed, I'm going to add them onto the front of my tray. I added some E6000 to the bottom of each and placed them down on the ribbon. Now that they've dried, I love the neutral tones, and I can use my cottage tray throughout the seasons and holidays. To make my Daisy dog in a bathtub, I'm starting with a 5-inch white porcelain dog, and I found this at the Dollar Tree. You can leave it as is or you can paint it. My youngest dog is gray, so I decided to give mine a coat of gray acrylic paint. Now that it's dry, I'm using a piece of black and white leftover ribbon to use as a collar. I placed a dot of hot glue on the back of the dog's neck, attached the end of the ribbon, and then cut it to size. I then glued that end over the first. The dog is complete, so I'm setting it aside and finishing the rest of the project. I'm using a plastic bathtub, and I found this in the toy department at the Dollar Tree. I'm adding the word bath to my tub, and if you have a Cricut, you can print one out. If not, you can use stickers. I found these at the Dollar Tree, and I'm using the black and white. These stickers are super sticky, and I attached them to the side. I need to raise the dog up in the tub, so I'm using 6 of the Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks. I added some hot glue to the center of the tub, placed down 3 of the blocks, added some more hot glue, and placed the other 3 on top of the first. I'm giving the bathtub a shower, and I'm using a piece from this Dollar Tree bathtub. You can find this in the toy department. To remove it, I cut it free from the tub. The blue shower head on the top, it spins, and I actually needed to remove it, so I just used my clippers and it popped right off. In place of the blue shower head, I'm using a daisy that I had on hand. I trimmed off the back and then hot glued it to the end of the shower hose. The shower hose is hollow, and I'm using a thick piece of floral wire, placing it inside to give it flexibility. Before I attach it in the tub, I'm first placing down the dog to get an accurate height measurement. I clipped off the extra wire and added on some hot glue to help hold it in place, and then attached it in the tub. I'm attaching the dog to the tub by first adding some hot glue on the blocks and then placing the dog down. To add some suds to the tub, I'm using a handful of everyday cotton balls. It was simple enough, I just pulled them apart. I tucked them around the dog, filled out the tub, making sure that I had enough. Then, to make sure they don't move, I hot glued them into place. For the bubbles in the tub, I'm using 2 packages of Dollar Tree pearls. I have 2 different sizes, but either of them will work. Starting with the larger pearls, I added some hot glue onto the cotton and randomly placed them down. I then added on more hot glue and randomly placed down the smaller pearls. I found a yellow wooden duck in my stash, so I'm adding that into the bath. To make the riser, I'm starting with a Dollar Tree chalkboard. There are 2 pieces of wood on the back. I just removed the arm. Using the same gray paint that I painted the dog, I painted the chalkboard frame. To make the feet for my riser, I'm using 8 of the tumbling tower blocks. I'm attaching them together using my Starbond thick glue. It sets unpainted wood up super quick, and if you'd like to give it a try, I do have the company linked below. I added some onto one block and placed the other on the top. When I was done, I had the 4 feet for my riser. They were dry in a couple of minutes, and I gave all 4 a coat of white acrylic paint. You can always leave them as is, but I'm going to wrap mine with some of the Dollar Tree buffalo check ribbon. I measured the ribbon around the block, cut it to size, and then hot glued it on. After my first one was complete, I then wrapped the other 3. I now have all 4 complete, and I'm adding them onto the bottom of the chalkboard to make my riser. You can add 2 on the front and 2 on the back. I opted to add both of mine on each side. With the riser complete, I'm now adding the tub and the riser together. I want to add 2 small white towels to my riser, and I'm using a bar cloth from the Dollar Tree. I opened it up and folded the end over about 2 inches. I then cut 2 pieces out of it to measure about 2 by 3. I opened the 2 up, added on some hot glue, and then folded both towels in half. And now to finish up, I'm gluing the 2 towels together. With that complete, I'm adding some hot glue onto the riser and attaching down the towels. To finish up, I'm adding on an accent of a little daisy. And with that, my cute daisy dog in a bathtub is complete. Here we are at the end of the video, and I hope you had fun making these farmhouse cottage DIYs with me, along with my little daisy dog. If you're looking for more home decor ideas, I'll leave some for you at the end of this video, as well as in my description. And of course, if you're new to my channel, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and come back and hang out with me again. I hope you all have a safe and amazing day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everybody!